My name is Ravi Khan. I'm today's mentor, and I'm also the Chief Imagineer of Imagine Coworking. We are a community designed around both providing tools and the necessary how-to for those tools to effectively grow, sustain, and build the dream business and personal life that you aspire to. And that comes in many forms. And so the experience has been over my 20 plus years of training salespeople and assisting businesses in growing, developing, exiting, achieving their business and personal goals is that very often we learn by mistakes. So, a couple things that we need to think about when we think about marketing. One is determining who is our target market and what are some of the ways that we're going to focus on building a marketing plan is going to be to take those business plan goals that we set out. So let's use an example and say that our business plan goal was to have revenue of $1 million this year. Okay, and we've got to that revenue goal. If you recall, we do everything from a work backwards perspective. So if I want to make $400,000 this year, and I know that my margins are 40%, well, then I need to generate $1 million in revenue top line in order to achieve my income objective. And then we talked about whatever constraints or limitations we're going to put on our time or on our resources in order to get there. But let's use that as an example. Let's say we've done our business planning and we've now determined that $1 million is the revenue target. Now the question becomes, we need to make sure that we have a plan for how are we going to achieve that $1 million objective. So a couple ways that I would encourage that we start with that would be one, is our goal and target of $1 million, is that realistic? And so sometimes I hear people and I ask them, I say, what's your target for revenue this year? And they throw out a number and I say, how'd you come up with that? And they may give me the same example. Well, I work backwards on what I want to make, or this is my objective for what I want to achieve. And my follow-up question is typically, what did you earn in the last year? What did you earn in the last 2 years? What did you earn in the last 3 years? And often the alignment between what people want to accomplish this year and what they've achieved in the past are not necessarily in sync. And how does that happen? Well, because we have ambitions, we have desires of what we want to achieve this year, but we don't necessarily have a pattern or a process of how we've accomplished that in the past. So again, without a written plan, the likelihood of achieving that success, very low. Is it possible? Sure. Everybody gets lucky. And no doubt, I'll take luck over skill any year. However, it's an unsustainable approach to business generation and to marketing as a whole. So when we think about what we want to do, we have to start with what are our targets. So if $1 million is now a realistic goal because we've seen progress and that we've determined that that's possible, now we're going to work into, okay, well, how do we break that target down? Well, we got to start with who we have. So do we know who our existing clients are? Before we even talk about an ideal client, do we know who our existing clients are? And you can go through, my encouragement would be start to segment the clients that you do business with. From a standpoint of size. So, and not necessarily the size of the client or the customer, but size of revenue that they bring to you. So do you have one type of client because all of your clients fit within a window or a scope? Meaning, does all of your clients pay you between $1,000 and $3,000 a year for whatever service or product that they do? Or are you somebody who has different levels of clients? You might have small, medium, and large clients. And you might say, all my small clients average somewhere between $100 to $1,000 in revenue per year. And they tend to be transactional as opposed to reoccurring. My intermediate clients, or I could break that down. I could say last year, 40% of those clients were transactional, 60% of those clients were reoccurring revenue, meaning they pay me every month, every year, whatever that particular range or fee is. Then I have intermediate clients, right? So they're going to pay me between $1,000 and $3,000 a year. Again, segment that. How many of those people are reoccurring? They pay that every month, they pay that every year. How many of those folks are annual in nature where they're transactional? You have to go out and get new ones and replace the ones who are falling off. That's going to depend on your business. Are you more project-based or are you more relationship and subscription or service model oriented where you're doing things on a reoccurring basis for people? And it will change what your marketing strategy looks like depending on whether you are more reoccurring revenue based or whether you're transactional based. But you have to be able to evaluate this. A big part of business planning, a big part of marketing planning is getting really good at tracking data and having the necessary information to be able to evaluate where have you been, where are you, and where do you want to go. So now thinking about large clients. So maybe I have large clients, and I consider that everybody over $3,000 of revenue. Same exercise. I'm going to break down how many of those are existing clients, how many of those are reoccurring. Well, once I know that number, then I'm going to have a pretty good sense of what my baseline is of reoccurring revenue that starts the year. So if I know I want to generate $1 million and I've just gone through this exercise to determine that 500,000 is coming in before I do any new marketing, any new transactional clients, well, I have a baseline. The next thing I'm going to look at is what's my retention. And again, I can use the past examples of things to give me some perspective on, do I retain 80% of my clients? Do I retain 20% of my clients? Do I retain 95% of my clients? And I would look at that and then I would break that down. If I know in the past that I retain 90% of my reoccurring revenue clients, and again, you could do this even by segment to get even more detailed. So you need to make sure that you have a plan around looking at your existing customer base, how many by segmentation are going to reoccur with you based on your retention, right, based on your service models, and evaluate then from there what we need to do in order to generate new business opportunities. I think anything beyond a weekly goal, and again, this is going to be unique to your industry or your particular field, but anything beyond a weekly goal is pushing it out too far. It's too hard to change course if there's a problem, and it's too hard to evaluate what worked the last week that you can recreate over the following week. So I would tell you eat weekly, no more than monthly. Do you need to measure all of your objectives tied back to marketing? If my objective is to generate, because I've worked backwards, and we're going to get into these details, but if I've determined that I need to get 10 referrals every week, I want to measure every week, what activities did I do? How many referrals did I get? What things can I then look at that I need to replicate the following week? Do I have those things already on my calendar? Am I planning out 3-4 weeks ahead of time on the things that are necessary for me to do? Or am I in a situation where if I don't have things pre-booked that I need to hit, the likelihood of, again, achieving that is a hope strategy. And that's not one we want to rely on week over week. So we need to map out. So this is just more enhancement of getting into the details and some of the weeds of things that I just talked about. Companies with strong marketing strategies are going to generate 50% more sales from existing leads because they have a plan for what to do when they get a lead, how to convert that into a client. We're going to talk more about that. Content marketing costs 62% less than traditional marketing and yields 3 times more leads. Now, what's content marketing? Social media marketing is a nutshell. Many of us have heard of it in that term or context. Doesn't mean you have to necessarily spend money on advertising. We're going to talk about that. There are multiple ways to do content marketing, but the key is that it's less time. There is a cost associated with it, whether you do it or whether you outsource it to somebody else. But typically speaking, your opportunity for exponential results in a shorter window of time are going to go up than what you could do as traditional marketing that we think of as print, or we think of even as going out and doing networking type events, etc. The more that you present yourself as an industry expert and people identify with that, the more they seek you out. And it's a way better marketing strategy to have people want to come find you as opposed to you trying to push to them and develop a need that they have that they should do business with you. It's great if ultimately somebody has a need and then they find you, which goes back to content. It could be, is your SEO, is your website working for you? Are you pasted all over Google and Facebook and all the places where when somebody has a need, they go out and search, are you there? But odds are, if you're a small to medium-sized business, you can't compete with your peers who can ultimately spend more to get a higher ranking. The best thing you can do is create a word-of-mouth advertising through your existing customers. And that, again, goes back to how are you driving referrals to your business? So, who are you marketing to? So this talks about really evaluating your existing customer base. And if you're a new business and you have no customers, then you can do some market research on this. Ultimately, what I would encourage everybody when you think about marketing is you're trying to basically satisfy 2 things. Do you have some skills or some talent that ultimately makes you unique? And it doesn't mean that you're the best at it. It just means you're better than the average. If you go out and you find you kick a soccer ball better than the average person, perhaps you should teach soccer classes. Because guess what? There's going to be somebody out there who sucks at soccer and they're teaching soccer classes. So if you can do something above average, better than other people, you're at least playing in the right realm of things that might be appealing for you. And same if your business. If you have a business and you have multiple lines of revenue that you generate, Maybe you're a contractor and you do remodels and you also do decks and you also do external painting. We'll figure out, is there one or two of those that is perhaps somewhere where you separate yourself from everybody else? Doesn't mean you're not going to take on jobs or things that fall into other areas. It just means you do want to try to identify, is there something that makes you unique or above average compared to your peers? Then what you want to evaluate is there a gap or a space in the market for what you do? How is somebody going to decide that they want to do business with you? Is your product or service better? That's fine, but you got to prove that to people. So that's going to be hard. It doesn't work to go out and say, well, I do a better job. I'm more detailed. We provide a better customer service experience. I can't tell you everybody that you ever talk to is going to say they provide the best customer service experience. They're going to tell you all the reasons that they do it better than somebody else. That's all fluff. Because until I do business with you, I have no idea if your customer service experience is better. Now, one way I might know that is through reviews or other things, or again, learning about your business through the eyes and lens of existing customers who have provided that. And the more detailed you can get those things to provide solutions for how you have solved, then that gives me context to how are you going to work with me? What I want to know is, can you solve my need, or can you solve the situation that I'm in? And the more examples that I have of that are going to work in your favor for me to choose to want to do business with you. So think about what is a need or gap in the market that exists today. Again, maybe you're a painter and everybody that goes out and paints with a certain kind of paint and you specialize in something different. Is that a need because there's less people competing in that arena? You've got to decide. There's only a couple ways you're going to be successful in business. You either got to have a better value proposition, you got to have a cheaper product, or you got to ultimately come up with something that is new and unique in the marketplace, or unique enough that you compete with less people in the marketplace. That's it. That's pretty much your opportunity for how you are going to win in business, is one of those three things. Either do it cheaper, provide a better value, or ultimately have something that's more unique in the marketplace. Now, if you can find a way to do 2 out of 3, you're cooking with gas. So the key will be, do some market research, understand who your competitors are. If I came to you and said, who are your top 3 competitors, and you don't know who they are, I'm going to tell you that you're probably missing the boat, because you can, one, steal from them. And I say steal in a very friendly format. I can learn what they're doing and how they're gaining customers and try to replicate and do some of the same things if it's working effectively. I can also look at what they're not doing. How can I compete in a different playing field? I don't want to do the same things that everybody else is doing and hope I get better results. That by nature is definition of insanity, right? I don't want to have to compete with everybody else. I want to find something that makes me unique, and I want to target that, and then I want to go deeper on how I market that particular uniqueness. Again, whether it's my value, it's my discounted pricing, or whether it's actually my product and service is totally unique to the marketplace. And I'll give you an example of that. I run a financial services company. There's no shortage of financial people in my local market and in the broader market. There's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that do what I do. Now, that said, that's the industry that I play in. However, what I do is I basically provide a holistic way that we approach clients, individual and business clients situation, looking at everything from their banking and budgeting all the way to their estate planning and everything in between, their debt, their budget, their tax strategy, their retirement plans, their education plans, their taking care of their parents' plan, they're taking care of their kids' and education plan. So we have built a business where we become experts in a lot of different areas. That's unique. There are not a lot of my peers who can say they have the knowledge to be able to talk intelligently with individuals or businesses about such a breadth of things that we cover. So all that I did was find a way that we could play in a large, crowded space in a slightly different and unique way, and give people now, and then I need to be able to articulate through my marketing how we do that effectively. And the best way I can do that then is through other people sharing their experiences with friends, family, reviews, etc., to elaborate on the experience they had and how they got a different value than what they either expected or what they've experienced in the past. That's going to be the best way. So when you think about who are you marketing to, the key is to identify. One of the best ways to do this is go through your existing customers, figure out who are the people you like working with, who are the people that provide you with the revenue you're looking for, and then what strategies did you do to bring them on board, and how can you replicate them? And sometimes that entails having a focus group, or what we might call a roundtable, or a your client advisory board. There's multiple terms and ways to do this. Pull together some of those people and say, I'd really like to interview you, have a dinner where you host them, have a lunch where you host them, and you're going to come prepared with questions that you can ask them on how you can replicate the experience that they've had, ask them for feedback on the experience they've had. And as a result of that, two things are going to happen. People that like you and like the value of what you provide, they want to tell other people. They just don't know how, and they don't know that they should. So one, giving them permission to do that is huge. Two, telling them how they should do that. And then three, the feedback that they're going to provide to you in terms of how you go and take that information and then put it into practice with your marketing channels is going to be unbelievably huge. And you can build an entire business literally through that process and through word of mouth, through an advisory board of existing clients. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. The next thing I want to touch on is once we've identified, now we've got a plan, right? We know I need to generate $1 million in revenue. Back to my example, I'm currently going to generate 450 based on my metrics of reoccurring revenue based on how much I have in existing clients, what I expect in their retention. And now I got to go out and find 550,000. So one of the key drivers to what I need to look at is what is the different marketing that I'm going to pursue this year? Am I going to do social media marketing? Am I going to get referrals? Am I going to go out and do networking? Am I going to host client events? Am I going to host industry events? What types of things am I going to do to generate the number of clients I have? Now, again, back to our numbers, we've already identified by this point exactly how many of each category. I know I need 12 large clients. I know I need 6 small clients. That's how many I need this year in order to hit my numbers. Now the key is going to be, what's my process of taking somebody from a prospect or a lead through to a revenue generating client? Okay. And when I ask about clients, all I want to know is who pays you. It doesn't matter to me. Somebody's in the pipeline, the check's in the mail. All that stuff doesn't help you pay your bills and help you eat. I want to know how much revenue are you generating from people and when are they paying? So that the key is going to be, what is going to be your different lead sources? And you need to break them all down. And what you need to do is figure out your lead to conversion process. And so, again, these are things that when I ask a lot of people, tell me about your lead to conversion process with referrals, they look at me like I have 3 heads. They have no idea what I'm talking about. And what I want to know is, how many leads does it take to create a buying unit? How many referrals do you need to create a buying unit? For some people, that might be 1.5 to 1. For every 1.5 referrals. Now, you might ask, how do I get 1.5 referrals? Well, again, we're averaging our numbers. So over the course of the year, if I get 15 referrals, and that basically, turned into X number of clients, then I can work backwards. If that turned into 10 clients, I know it takes 1.5 referrals in order to yield 1 client, paying revenue client. So that's how the math is going to work. I need to then work through what are my channels of every step that happens and where do clients fall off from that lead conversion. So if I have a referral, what happens with that referral? One, what do I do with the person that's referring them in? And I'm going to give everybody what I think is perhaps one of the most creative and number one strategies for how to thank people that provide you with referrals, and a means to, 1, show your appreciation, and 2, to generate more referrals. When you get a referral from somebody, I would encourage you to get a set of thank you cards. You can buy 100 for like $6 on Amazon. So get a set of very inexpensive. They don't have to be logoed. You don't have to spend a lot of money on this. Have a thank you note. And if you want to know what my thank you note is, I'll share it with you in our tools and post it online, post this workshop, and I'll send it out to everybody where you can find the tools that we talk about in these workshops. They'll be available on our website. So send a handwritten thank you note. It's the same thank you note to everybody, but it's a handwritten thank you note. It takes you all of 2 minutes to put together. And basically what it says is 1 referral equals 1 opportunity to win. And you're going to put a $1 or $2 scratch ticket into that card, and you're going to mail it to that person. Somebody gives me 3 referrals, I'm going to put 3 scratch tickets in. I'm not going to put a $3. The more scratch tickets, the better. Why? Because the idea and the notion, we all have this serotonin that is released of this process. When I'm scratching that scratch ticket, automatically I'm excited about the opportunity to win. Whether I win or not isn't really relevant. The fact that you gave me the opportunity to win some big money, $10,000, $100,000, whatever that scratch ticket says, that unto itself is exciting for me to want to do it again. So I've incentivized the behavior of somebody wanting to provide me with referrals. So it's a very simple thing you can do, but it's a way that you can thank and show your appreciation. Same thing. If somebody comments and starts following you online, how do you thank them? How do you show your appreciation to them? Do you send them a free whatever for your business or service as a means of thank you? Maybe it's a white paper. Maybe it's a free trial of your stuff. Some way that you show your appreciation and acknowledge that they came into the funnel the way you are targeting in marketing. Now the question is with the prospect that comes in. So I'm going to continue to use this referral example. My not the referrer, right? The referrer is the person who provided me with the referrals, but the referee, the person who now came in as a lead. What am I going to immediately do? How do they get into my funnel? And what is my funnel? It starts with how do I interact and engage with that person? Is it an email introduction? Is that email introduction going to include copying the person who referred me to them? Part of that may depend on what information you have. Maybe you only have a phone number. Well, then you got to call the person. Do you have an email? What's going to be your particular strategy? And it should be consistent. This is not about trying to change it up or doing something different every day. It's about having the exact same process that you follow for every single one of your marketing channels, and you do it in replication. Okay, it's very boring, and that's how you become a master at anything. You get to the place where it's boring, it's stale, it's stagnation, and you do it over and over and over again till you have it mastered. Why is that so critical? Because it's the only way we can evaluate if it's working effectively and where your roadblocks are. And the key to this process, to have a conversion process, is to evaluate, do you have a roadblock in your process that we can improve upon? So I know if my referrals, if I need 10 referrals to turn into one client, I want to understand, how do I get that number better? Now, every industry is going to have a set standard for all marketing you do, from referrals to social media marketing to network marketing. Depending on your industry, there's going to be some standards. I want to figure out, what's my process? When I get that referral, how do I immediately follow up with them? What's my timeline expectation to follow up with them? If I get a referral today, what's my expectation? Is it 12 hours? Is it 1 hour? Is it 24 hours when I need to respond back to them? Have a plan, have it detailed. This is part of a SMART goal. I need to be really specific and drive home what my process is, and then I need to track, did I do it? So with this particular referral, did I send them did I introduce myself within 24 hours? Did I call to action? What do you want that person to do? Do you want them to have a call with you? Do you want them to come in and tour? Do you want them to trial and demo your product? What is it that you're asking this person who you've been introduced to do? The most important thing is, do they have a means to understand who you are, what you do, how are you going to provide value to them? Because they may or may not be looking for that, right? If they're not looking, you got to sell them. You got to sell them and convince them why they need whatever it is you have to offer. So you need to very quickly, early on in the process, provide them with some information about who you are, how you work. And the best way to do that is case studies. The best way to give somebody some perspective on what you do, give them examples. Maybe they got that, maybe they didn't, from the person who referred them to you. In my business, one of the ways we do that is we immediately try to follow up with them. We thank the person who referred them in. We send the thank you note. Then we want to follow up with that person, ideally within 12 hours. So same day, I want to get back in touch with that person. And I want to set up an introduction call. And I want to, as quickly as possible, I want that call to happen within 48 hours. When you have a hot lead, the faster you can interact with that person to have some kind of an onboarding call is going to be critical. And maybe that's a template, maybe that's an email, whatever it is that they do, that they interact with you and gather their information. They're hot. After 72 hours, you're going to lose 50% of the excitement for that party in terms of why they want to do business with you. So it's going to be harder. You need more of them. So that unto itself would be part of my conversion. I can track over the course of the year, if I get 50 referrals, how fast did I engage with that person? Was it 12 hours? Was it 24 hours? Just track it. Have an Excel spreadsheet that basically says, this is my referral. Here's how fast I got in touch with them or initially reached out to them. Here's when I initially did my intake call with them. Track that stuff, and then have an understanding of, do you get different results based upon how quickly you can turn that result from that particular metrics, right? So if I find that over the course of the next quarter, that I have people that I get in touch with within 12 hours, and I have others that I don't get in touch with for 48 hours. I want to see, is there a difference in what that conversion really looks like? I got to understand again, what is it doing for me? I got to be able to track that stuff. So we talked a lot about this, about bottlenecks and optimization. Um, and that's probably one of the most critical things, is being able to track that. Addressing sales roadblocks. So this again goes back to, what is my conversion funnel look like? What are the steps of my process? Can I articulate it and outline it? Do I have standard operating procedures for each of them? Like I described the thank you note. It's the same thank you note that goes out to everybody. I don't have to think about it. It's the same one. So instead of it taking 10 minutes to do the exercise, which is then going to become intrusive to my day, if it only takes me 90 seconds to do it, because I literally I pull it up on my computer, I write it down, and it's done. It makes it faster and easier. The same thing is true. Have standard operating procedures for everything that you do, so you can evaluate and retest the process. All right, balancing retention and growth. So we talked a little bit about this earlier. I mentioned it is clearly easier to find ways to keep existing customers and get referrals from those existing customers, or upsell existing customers, than it is to go out and find new ones. Now, for all of us, that may not be a reality. For some people, hey, your clients pay you what they pay, and unless they grow their business, there's not an opportunity for them to buy more from you or to pay you more money. That's fine. It doesn't mean you have to increase your prices every year. It just means, can you evaluate, maybe there's other services that those customer needs. Maybe there's share of wallet, we would call it, of other things that customer needs to get. And either you can provide those strategies to them, or you can, through a referral partnership, share in some of the revenue if it's legal and compliant and all the other things that are necessary. If it's legal and compliant for you to share in revenue of referring them or introducing them to partners, it's a great way to add revenue to what you generate from existing clients. For example, I talked about, we are holistic. We provide a lot of things. Well, one of the things we did along the way was we decided we'd get mortgage license and we'd get insurance license. Well, now these are things that we can provide in-house that help us generate more revenue per client, where we don't need to go out and find as many new clients. Everybody has that opportunity, typically, not everybody, but most businesses, to figure out, are there additional lines of revenue you can provide to clients? It might be forward or backward integration, or complementary services or products to what you have. If it's not something that you can actually provide, think about who partners are where you can work with them, and maybe you generate some either referrals from them, or you generate some commission income from them. So you really have to go deeper on your existing clients and evaluate how can they build to get you to where you want to be. Integrating marketing naturally. This is a really great topic that I really enjoy. A couple things. When you think about your online presence or social media marketing or content creation, the biggest thing I would tell you is, are you genuine? Nobody wants to hear all about the things that you do as your product and service and how great it is. They want to know about your excitement. What makes you tick? Why are you getting up every day and going and doing what you do? And I got to tell you, if you're getting up every day and you're struggling to go do what you do, and you're an entrepreneur or a salesperson, you're probably in the wrong field. Your success will be limited by your energy. So you got to figure that out. So it doesn't mean quit tomorrow, but it does mean figure out, are you really an entrepreneur, or did you create a business for yourself because you didn't want to be an employee? And we're going to talk about that in upcoming workshops before the end of the year. Are you really an entrepreneur? Are you just a manager, or did you create a job for yourself? That said, assuming that you can be authentic and you can just talk about the things that are exciting to you and your customers, how do you interact and engage with people? Can you get customers to give you that feedback and provide that? That's what's going to matter to people. People don't want to necessarily, I will say this, I don't believe people want to do business with you because they like you. I believe they want to do business with you because they think that you have a value to provide to them. That said, they do want to do business with people who are genuine, right? At the end of the day, I don't want to do business with somebody who I don't think is genuine and honest and has integrity. And I can just approach that. They have energy. They have excitement about what they do. It makes a difference. Okay. So think about that. The other thing about marketing naturally is, I find it interesting that many people that I meet say, well, I like to keep my personal life and my business separate. I think that's the craziest thing I ever heard. Frankly, I say that because if you're good at what you do and you provide value, why wouldn't that come up in conversation? right? Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and the next time you run into somebody at the grocery store and they have a shopping cart next to you, you give them your business card and pitch them on something you do. That's not marketing organically. But marketing organically is when you have an opportunity to talk about something that's exciting to you and something that you did and a success and a win. You should share that with other people. It resonates. It might just help their day. Forget that you're marketing. But if you don't have that courage to do that, then I think something's missing in terms of what it is you do day to day. The other thing I would share is that marketing in general is uncomfortable. And I don't care if that's going to a networking event and having to meet 10 or 20 new people. It's way harder to go do that than it is to stand next to the buffet or the cocktail bar, right? It's very easy to stand there and wait for who comes to you. It's very hard to go out and have an approach to say, I'm going to meet 20 people here and I'm going to walk away with 10 referrals, not business cards, 10 referrals, people that I can do business with. That's hard. It's uncomfortable. It requires you to get out of your comfort zone. If I asked all of you on this call or anybody that's watching this, would you rather be comfortable or rather be uncomfortable? What would you say? Comfortable or uncomfortable? I'm going to guess you'd rather be comfortable. That's kind of human nature. But if I now change that and I said, would you rather be comfortable or would you rather grow? I think most people would say I'd rather grow. And that doesn't, I'm not tying something to that growth. It doesn't mean grow your revenue, grow as a person. How do you grow as a person? Get uncomfortable. How do you grow as your health and wellness? Get uncomfortable. Cut out the things you really love that are unhealthy for you. Go exercise more. Those are hard things. Those are hard choices to make, but that's what it takes in order to grow in anything. Marketing in general is uncomfortable, but make the choice that you want to grow and you want to get into your comfort zone. You want to get out of your comfort zone into your uncomfortable zone. There's a great quote by John Wayne, and it says, courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway. It's in my office as a big reminder that at the end of the day, marketing's hard. At the end of the day, marketing's uncomfortable. At the end of the day, I have to prioritize marketing as the number one thing I do to drive growth in my business. That's it. It's that simple. So when I think about how do I incorporate marketing into my week, marketing for me is something that I want to do on Mondays. And why do I want to do it on Mondays? Because it's the hardest thing. And anybody that's ever read the book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog, what he talks about is if I've got to eat a frog, or I got to eat multiple frogs, then the best time of day for me to do it, and if I got to eat multiple frogs, I want to start my day with it because everything from the rest of the day gets easier. And if I got to eat multiple frogs, I'm going to eat the biggest, ugliest one first because everything else gets easier. So if I know that it's uncomfortable, then I'm starting my week on a note where I'm geared up. I'm hopefully rested, relaxed from the weekend, and I'm going to do the most uncomfortable thing I can do, which almost always is marketing. So I'm going to prioritize that Mondays are marketing days. I don't want to take client calls. I want to do any other work. I just want to focus on marketing. Now, is it a whole day? Some people say, well, do I take a whole day? How do I take a whole day on a Monday? Because if you don't spend 20% of your time marketing, then you're missing the boat. Now, if your week is not 40 hours, okay, 8 hours every day, 5 days a week, then maybe it's more than Monday. If you're working 60 hours a week, and you're not working 12-hour days, it might be Monday and half of Tuesday or Monday and part of Thursday. But you got to figure out that you're spending 20% of your time on marketing. If that's not the case, and marketing, by the way, could be calling existing clients, checking in on them. How is everything going? Is there any other things that might be happening in your world that we can become a resource to? Notice I'm not asking for more business. I'm just asking, is there any roadblocks that they have? Is there anybody that they need to meet? Maybe they tell you their basement just flooded and they need to find a water abatement company. Guess what? The first thing I'm going to do is get off the phone with them and figure out, do I have that person in my Rolodex? And if not, who can I call that has that person in their Rolodex? Because I want to make an introduction. I want to help the people who are my clients figure out the stuff going on in their life. Why? Because I become a valuable resource to them. They want to, in turn, do business with me and provide me with more referrals. So 20% doesn't have to be just going out and doing networking. 20% might be doing your social media posts. 20% might be evaluating, going through your metrics, going through your funnel, putting together standard operating procedures. But it has to be time dedicated to not doing your product or service, but instead thinking about marketing. Okay, thinking about it or ideally executing it. Okay, so 20% of your time. Resilient. So now, how do I think about continuing marketing efforts that might be challenging? We talked about you just got to be willing to be uncomfortable. One of the best examples of marketing in your network or marketing organically that I've ever heard is I remember a woman gave a presentation once that I heard, and she was selling her house. And as a result of selling her house, she ended up with 3 clients out of that. And there were basically 4 people involved in the transaction that she talked to about what she does for a living. There was her selling realtor, there was the buy side realtor, there was the buyer of this particular house, and then there was the closing attorney. 3 out of those 4 people ended up becoming clients to her. That's organic marketing. That's being excited about what you do. That's getting uncomfortable and talking to people about what it is you do. That's asking questions, being curious about who are the resources that those people have today. And a lot of times what you have to do is not sell somebody on doing business with you. It's just be curious, just ask questions, just talk to them, but you have a clear directive, right? I'm not doing this with an ulterior motive. So if I talk to somebody about what I do in the financial world, I might ask them questions like, hey, where are you thinking about sending your kids next year? That's a conversation starter. That's not me necessarily leading about with what I do. It's just asking questions. Are they going to send them to private school, public school? What was their experience with school and education? We can have a whole conversation about it. Why is that important? Well, because that's relevant to me too. So I'm not just doing it from a business perspective. I'm doing it in a way that I can connect with somebody. But does that have elements of ways that I can tie that back to what I do for a living? 100%. And more often than not, a personal, engaging conversation with curiosity is going to then find a way that it can lead back to things that you do from a business standpoint. So you have to be curious and you have to engage people in conversation. Resilience in marketing. What I would encourage everybody to do is have a plan around the activities that you need to do. Once we go through our plan and we now have activities, maybe that's, I got to ask for 5 referrals. I got to ask 5 different people for referrals every week with an objective to get to 10 referrals. That's my activity that I have to do. Now what I want to have is a system of rewards and accountability. This is self-driven, by the way, but you can engage other people to help you through this exercise. What does that mean? Well, every week I'm going to have a way that I reward myself if I asked 5 people and if I got 10 referrals. What would be an example of that? Maybe it's I watched my favorite show on Friday night after I achieved that objective. Well, what happens if I don't meet my objective? I got to call 2 people in the same hour that I would otherwise be watching my show on Friday night. That's a reward, and that's a punishment, is I guess the way that I would call it, or an alternative to my reward if I do and don't meet my objectives. I would tell you, when you have that on a weekly basis, even a daily basis, maybe it's that you love to have a glass of wine at the end of the day. Well, find a way that you have a daily accountability goal for something that needs to happen every day. You either do it or you don't do it. I can tell you weekly, quarterly, and yearly accountability rewards works really well. Maybe you want to take a vacation. Well, incentivize yourself. Did you hit your quarterly revenue target? Did you hit your, but more, I would tie it to the accountability and less the result. Because what I can tell you is marketing doesn't always yield the result we want in the timeline that we set. That's part of learning how to refine your expectations and then your results. But the activity, if you have the right activities and then you constantly are reviewing those and your funnel, the activity, if you keep doing the activities might need to change, but if you keep activity high when it comes to marketing, you will over time yield the results that you're looking for. So I would tie your rewards to your activity, not necessarily just your results. And learning and making changes is that as you do anything, you build habits and you build comfort with those particular things. So what was uncomfortable today is going to become comfortable and make it easier for you to do moving forward. Why not having a plan, becomes difficult? One, it's anxiety and stressful. So when you don't have a plan and you're just operating day to day, week to week on a go forward basis, again, what's your marketing plan? Hope. And hope doesn't float, I think, is as a quote that I've heard out there. It doesn't work with consistency. You cannot rely on hope to be your plan year over year. You might get lucky. It might work for a period of time, but it will not work to the effectiveness of the time that you're investing versus having a strategy, working backwards, having accountability to that, and having clear action plan that you can put into place with all the different marketing channels that you're going to pursue. How do you allocate money to marketing? So we talked about allocating time. I will tell you that, and again, this is going to be a best practice for every industry, but when I go through people's financial statements, one of the line items that I'm looking for is, do they spend a minimum of 10% on their marketing? Some businesses, it could be 5, some businesses it could be 20 or 30%. But at a minimum level, in my opinion, most businesses should be spending 10% on marketing. Now, what does that mean? Marketing could be social media ads, could be hiring and outsourcing marketing functions. It could be an internal salesperson in terms of what I pay them. It could be hiring an outside agency to help me with different marketing. But at the end of the day, I have to evaluate, how am I going to measure what my cost to market is? And then how am I going to manage my cost for each particular channel of marketing I'm doing? Because I need to measure the effectiveness of that. You might find that you're doing 5 things and only 3 are yielding results. Well, does that mean that you should stop doing the other 2? Before you do that, I would encourage you to try to look at those and figure out, are there roadblocks? Are there systems you can improve for those 2 types of marketing first? Let's get a better sense. Let's go deeper on what you're doing. And then from there, if we still find that they're not working, guess what? You might just find you want to take those same resources of time, money, people, and invest them in the things that are working and go deeper, push harder on those particular channels. So how do you do that? You got to start somewhere. So the start is develop a plan. Look at whatever plan you might have had in the past. Was it detailed enough? Did it follow SMART goals? Did you break things down to weekly goals, if not daily, to at least no longer than weekly objectives with what you need to do? If you want to improve upon something this year, I'd encourage you to just have a plan and then try to get good at one thing. Doesn't mean don't do any other things. It just means focus on one thing you want to do, at least quarter by quarter. Don't overcomplicate this. And you need to make sure that you have tracking mechanisms in place. KPIs are going to be the things that you want to track so you can measure results and figure out how you improve on efficiency. So we talked about, how do you focus on developing who your ideal client is? Look to your existing clients or think about where there's a gap in the marketplace. Identify where clients are coming from today. Look at what the conversion process is. How are you incorporating marketing into your daily life? If you're not, find the excitement. What's missing? Do you just need somebody to reframe it for you? My guess is, again, the more you talk to your existing clients that like you and do business with you and are excited, it's going to excite you. It's mundane a lot of times doing the day-to-day things that we have to do within our businesses. But when you talk to a client who's super excited and appreciative about what it is you do for them, it gets your energy level up. If you have any feedback, please email me. I'd really appreciate it. Also, when we send that feedback, we'll have an opportunity for you to invite others to be part of the Imagine community. And every time you provide us with a referral, monthly we're doing a drawing where you'll get an opportunity for free time in one of our physical locations and $100 hard cash. So please think about who else would find value in attending some of these workshops and share their information with us so we can personally invite them and give you an opportunity to win some money. Thanks again. Have a great rest of the day and a great rest of your week. Appreciate you being here today.